Hello and welcome to the Deere-Wiman House. The home was originally called Overlook when it was built in 1872 by Charles and Mary Deere. Charles was the son of John Deere and became president of Deere & Company upon John's death. The home was lived in by his descendants until 1976. Today, we're going to share with you our Christmas decorations in the Victorian style. The living room at Deere-Wiman House has gone through immense changes over the years. The large living room today was remodeled in about 1909, we believe, with the wonderful woodwork, plasterwork, and the fireplace as it sits now. For Christmas, we decorate the home in the mid-Victorian era. The Victorian era begins in the 1840s when Queen Victoria ascended the throne in England. She lived until the early 1900s. So that's quite a long reign. And we break the Victorian era down into mid, early, and late Victorian. Since this house was built in 1872, we opted to try to look as Victorian as we could, even though it was a family home for much longer. Our decorations in here, mainly the beautiful tree. Let's talk more about the tree. Now, if we look back at the 1860s Victorian era, ornaments tended to be more patriotic in theme in the United States. But by the 1870s, they were starting to make a variety of handmade ornaments. Our tree is quite tall, goes almost to the ceiling. That's not totally typical of early and mid-Victorian trees. They tended to be more tabletop trees. But here in the United States, we always think that bigger is better. And so our large tree features many ornaments that could be given away as Christmas presents. And so by the end of Christmas Day, your tree might be kind of bare because of people dropping in to visit, and you'd give them a gift off the tree. Like this ladies' fan, perfect gift for any young lady visiting. There's bags of candy, definitely for the kids that would visit. We also have a pin cushion. Makes a lovely ornament, but it was also a useful tool for a woman. Now, when the house was built in 1872, of course it did not have electricity, and so trees of that period would have used candles to light the tree. Now, that's definitely a fire hazard, and they would have kept a bucket of water and a rag nearby that could be soaked to put out the candle quickly. Also, they didn't light their tree and have it lit 24/7. They didn't have the tree lit for weeks at a time like we tend to do today. Oftentimes, the tree might only be lit twice during the Christmas season. Once on Christmas Eve when everyone could see it, and then maybe once on Christmas Day. You notice that they're on the tree using clips. Some early ornament candle holders had a weight hanging down below to keep the candle balanced and straight up. They also would put cotton underneath the tree to catch any drips. Underneath our tree, we like to feature several artifacts from our collection that belong to the children of the house. Our rocking chairs date from the 1890s with Charles Deere's daughters, Anna and Catherine. The little cabinet with the canister set inside also dates to that same period. I especially like the canister set, and that we have tea, coffee, sugar, salt, rice, and prunes. The washstand is our oldest piece. It dates to the 1840s and belonged to Mary Little Dickinson. In 1860, she married Charles Deere. And finally, the last rocking chair, we have a wonderful German-made doll that was made in the early 1870s and was played with lovingly by Charles Deere's daughters, Anna and Catherine. The Overlook Library was originally Charles Deere's den, and his portrait hangs above the fireplace. To my left is Mary Deere, Charles Deere's wife. They had two daughters, Anna and Catherine. Anna married William Wyman, and Catherine married William Butterworth. Anna and Will Wyman had two sons. Our last two portraits feature them. Charles Wyman and his wife Patty were the last two residents of the house. Charles Wyman also was president of Deere & Company, just like his grandfather, and he was president from 1928 until his death in 1955. The pipe organ was added to the house along with the music room in the 1890s. The bust is of John Deere. We know has been in this spot since at least 1900 because it shows up in a historic photograph that we have of the room. He didn't wear a toga, but he has a definite Roman look about him with the toga and the hairstyle. That's because back in the 1880s, when this statue was carved by Leonard Volk, it was common practice to make the person look like the wisest men of the past, which was the Romans. Here is a wonderful historic photo taken from that late 1890s period, where it shows that at least one year the family situated their Christmas tree right in front of the organ. Notice how tall it was, and it goes clear up into the dome. A typical tree of the 1890s with tinsel and beads and large kugels, which were glass ornaments imported from Germany. During the 1800s, December 1st marked a now forgotten winter holiday known as Sled Day. Sled Day traditionally was spent refurbishing the family sleighs and polishing up the sleigh bells in preparation for the long snow season ahead. This picture was taken in the mid-1890s in downtown Moline, Illinois, and it shows Charles Deere driving a sleigh up the street. His wife Mary is in the back of the sleigh with one of their daughters and a friend. The orchestrion that we have here in the library, we believe was purchased in the late 1800s by the family. It was made by the Stella Music Disc Company out of Europe, and it still plays kind of like a music box, where you would wind it up and then you have a large plate sitting here, and as it turns, the little teeth hit the holes and play the song. Back in the late 1800s, this orchestrion would have cost about $100. And it came with 12 tune plates. The dining room table and the Christmas feast was a feast for all the senses, not just the wonderful food, but also beautiful table arrangements. And here we have a wonderful lace tablecloth that belonged to the Deere family. And the china that we used, we found was originally used by the Deers on their houseboat on the Mississippi River. A couple features that we use on the dining room table: the small wrapped gift at each place setting. We were told that this was a tradition in Charles Deere-Wiman's family, that at the Christmas dinner they would have a small gift for each person. Next to it, we have some candied orange peel, popular Victorian candy, and a little dish of Red Hots. Those were also popular during the Victorian era. The napkin that we use at each place setting has the monogram of MLD, Merry Little Dickinson. Christmas mottos were a popular Victorian tradition. Sometimes they would be, Christmas greeting would be spelled out using paper, like a paper doll chain, only paper letters. In our case, we opted to go with greens, another popular way to make a Christmas motto. And so when we decided to do this feature, we tried to think of a word that wasn't too long to do. And so we settled on joy. So joy for the Christmas season is our Christmas motto. Our orange studded with cloves pomanders were a popular Victorian tradition. Oranges were definitely something that only the wealthy could use them to make pomanders. Let's go upstairs to the second floor and see some of the Christmas decorations we have there. The second floor of the Deere-Wiman House consists of 4 bedrooms, a sitting room, and 5 bathrooms. Here in the main hallway, on our wonderful library table, we feature a gumdrop tree, popular during the Victorian time, and still popular with many today. Although I don't think you want to eat these gumdrops, each gumdrop is stuck on a thorn. So it's definitely just for show. In the green room bedroom, on top of the fireplace mantle, we have some miniature hot air balloons. Ours are handmade, but during the late Victorian era, it was very popular to purchase little metal hot air balloons and dirigibles because those were fascinating to people during that time period. Here's the full green room. We think that this room was always used as a guest room by the Deere and then the Wiman families. The blue bedroom, we believe, was the bedroom of Mary Deere. The bed and matching pieces all date to the centennial period of the 1870s. Then during the Wiman period of the house, we believe this became a guest room. Our snowy white owl was found dead in a train boxcar back in the 1950s. It was stuffed and given to Charles Deere-Wiman as a gift. Earlier I mentioned that tabletop trees were popular, and it wasn't unusual for each bedroom to have their own tabletop tree. This one, we have electric lights on it. Remember earlier I mentioned that in 1872, the house would not have had electricity, but gas lighting. But we know that by 1890, Charles updated the house to feature electricity. The Rose Room was another guest room for the Deeres and the Wimans. On the dressing table in the bay of the Rose Room, we see a feather tree. Feather trees were first crafted in Germany, ranging in height from 4 inches to 9 feet. They were usually made of green, dyed goose feathers. The trees were then placed in painted wood pots. Feather trees appeared in response to a German conservation ordinance which was trying to reduce deforestation in the 1880s and 1890s. Then in the early 1900s, feather trees became popular in the United States.